Hey everyone.
Coughing or
Yeah.
yawning there.
I was like
Oh, I see the beard covered it. I couldn't.
Yeah. Welcome everyone. As you probably know, this is New Comic Book Day Book Club. You probably know because, it's now that the greatest comic book show ever is no longer on the air. This is now the greatest comic book show ever.
I was gonna say, but I'm still here. Maybe if a member of the team arrives in the chat, I'll share.
Yeah,
love those guys. I don't see Jason enough. I feel like we need Jason in our chats more.
Yeah, I feel like I need Jason in my life more.
Well, this is the probably truer side of that. At least I can jump into Andy's chats and find Andy whenever I want. And Bear Island, every couple of years makes an edited video.
You can't avoid Andy.
No, I mean I don't want to.
No, I don't want to either. But I'm saying, like, you just turn your head and there's Andy with another video. He's a content creating machine.
He really is. He really is.
I mean, I admire him for that, considering I am the yin to that yang. But enough about the past. Let's talk about the slightly more recent past, which is
a horrible segue. I loved it. So bad it's good.
This past February that just ended yesterday. And we're going to talk about a couple of books that came out that we read and see what we thought about them.
Enough about the past. Let's talk about the past. I'm the only one.
They can't all be gems.
I feel like we should get the one non-image or DC indie book out of the way here. Just get
let's do it.
It's your thumbnail. We can get rid of it. I got this cover.
You even got the cover I used for the
thumbnail.
Yeah.
It reminded me so much of Christopher Reeve. I kind of had to go for it.
Yeah. I just got the regular cover, but
Superman. Joshua Williamson. I don't know if he's ever written Superman before. Do you? I don't think he has. But
I don't know. I don't read enough Superman to know.
That's fair.
What everyone's been working on.
I know Philip Kennedy Johnson's been doing a banger job over on Action, and I've been trying to catch up on that. And then I know it's been Tom Taylor doing Superman Son of Kal-El with Jonathan Kent or John Kent. So it's been a little while since we've had a traditional Superman comic, a couple of years.
Right, because we just don't talk about Bendis.
Well, I mean, we want to ignore some things. So here we got Joshua Williamson, and I was kind of excited for me more about Jamal Campbell. I don't know if you've read any books that he's drawn, but I loved Far Sector, which
I know you talk about it a lot.
The entire run of Far Sector, which his art I thought really suited that. He took a very it could have been very heavy topic and gave it a kind of fun cartoony style that I thought it worked really well there. So I was looking forward to seeing him do something different because it was the only thing I've ever read that he's drawn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wasn't overly familiar with him coming into this.
Okay.
So should we just kind of briefly discuss the story?
Oh yeah, you want me to do that? Sorry.
No, I mean I can do it, or you can do it.
What do you want?
So basically, I'm going to do this as most concisely as I can. Superman, Lex Luthor is in jail and is talking to Superman, and because he knows that Superman can hear him, and they even mentioned that Superman says, I've spent so long zeroing in on certain people voices, making sure I can hear them, that I can't tune it out now.
Right.
So he's kind of egging him on, for lack of a better term. And
is this kind of like the metaphor of not being able to turn off your haters, always needing to read the hater comments kind of thing?
Yeah.
That's how I took that, the metaphor of modern social media era where you just the hater voices ring in your head for so long.
Yeah. But the issue starts kind of with like just throwing you into a fight with him in Livewire, which doesn't seem to have any impact on the issue at all.
You got to start with action. That's the requirement. Although at least they didn't start with like a flashback and then jump forward.
Well, actually, they did.
Do they?
Yeah, because the first page is him as a kid in Smallville.
Oh, you're right. you started right, yeah. So they even started off with your favorite,
which I didn't even mention because, like, why? It had no bearing on anything.
No, not really. What's up, JP and Mama?
So, thanks for stopping by, guys. So yeah, it starts with this fight that really has no bearing on anything other than to set up the fact that Luthor is talking to him. So then we have like a bunch of kind of wasted pages of stuff at the Daily Planet where it's just kind of reintroducing you to the characters. And then suddenly around the LexCorp building, there seems to be this purple tornado, and Superman goes to check it out, and it's actually these nanobots that are creating a giant Superman logo on top of LexCorp. So he goes in to investigate, and long and short of it is that with Lex in jail, he has turned over the power of, you know, the company to Superman, and has kind of put him in a catch-22 situation of either you need to take over the company or everyone is going to lose their jobs because no one else is allowed to take over but you.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, what else am I missing?
I mean, then he runs and tries to talk to Lex for a minute, and he learns a little bit about how they're doing this whole rebranding thing. And then on the way to try to talk to Lex, we have the crazy beast thing. I don't remember what it's called.
With Parasite.
Parasite, sorry.
Yeah, so he runs into Parasite, who's kind of wrecking the city, and he follows him into the woods of Metropolis.
Sure.
And there's like a bunch of little baby parasites who latch onto him and start leeching his powers.
Yes. That's it. Yeah.
And
all because he's not listening to Lex, and Lex knows.
So, I mean, it is like both nothing happens and an incredible amount happens. Like I felt like it was like really frenetic in its pacing, where like it never lets you get your footing on a scene before something else happened, and it ripped you away from what was happening in that scene to something completely different.
Mm-hmm.
Which, like, I enjoyed all of the elements independently, but together it didn't really like flow in a way that I found enjoyable.
And I think that's the biggest truth I took away from the issue was the pacing didn't work. It felt like a lot of start stop, like stutter. It had a stuttering to it. This is Joshua Williamson on writing and Jamal Campbell on art. So yeah, for me, it definitely it didn't have a consistency and a lot. Yeah, that's a great point, Kingpin. A lot of setups, but they didn't seem related or even important to one another. It just seemed like a lot of stuff.
Right. Yeah. I really liked the whole idea of like Lex talking to him and kind of putting him in this position where he couldn't say no to Lex, which is like a very Lex thing to do, right?
Absolutely.
Like clearly he's not doing this altruistically. Like he has some plan that he is setting up by putting Superman in charge of his company while he's in jail.
So Kingpin, I am a fan of Campbell, and I do think he is suited to the bigger DC stages in a lot of ways. He has a very cartoony style, and for me, it works in a Superman book, and it worked in Far Sector, which I mentioned earlier. And it was probably my favorite part of this book. I like that he didn't play with the typical 9 grid. I think that he did some fun different things. Anime. You could say anime, I suppose.
I do appreciate when artists don't stick to the 9-panel grid all the time, but I feel like he didn't use it a little much, if that makes sense. Like,
didn't use it enough.
Every page felt like, oh, I have to do some wacky stuff, and it made it kind of that paired with the frenetic pacing of the writing kind of made it hard to follow what was happening in the drawing sometimes.
I didn't have an issue like reading panel to panel where I felt like I was missing a panel or anything like that, if that's what you mean.
No, I just felt like because the story was so like ADHD in a way, like I wanted something a little more grounded in the art to kind of make me
structure it in some way.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. That didn't irk me. I do love the look of his Superman. He's got the giant curl in his hair, and he's strapping, and he does a great look. Even the silly like promo anime version of
that was cute
of Superman. I think he captures the look well. He's also one of those few people that I think can draw Superman and Lois Lane, and some people really struggle with one or the other. And
I will say though that his Clark Kent just looked like Superman. Like he did.
Well, I mean, yeah.
Like someone like I'm not like the biggest fan of Frank Quitely, but the way he drew Clark versus Superman was so starkly different.
Okay.
That like this just looked like he like obviously if you draw a big buff Superman, you can't draw a skinny Clark Kent, but like there were the scene, especially when he was like sitting at his desk typing, like he looked like he was about to bust out of his shirt. Like he looked like a thick boy.
I got a few of those.
Yeah, like he's massive.
Yeah.
And so anyway,
no, that's never irked me because part of buying into Superman is buying into the fact that nobody's connecting these obvious dots.
Yeah.
But the artwork fit for me. I liked the look of Jimmy. So for me, it was more about the look of these characters. How is he going to capture these characters?
Yeah.
I thought he did well with all of that. I like that he kind of like was shaking up the look, but none of it helped solve the story issues that we've kind of mentioned going in for me. That obviously,
I will say the one thing that kind of I was kind of, I guess, annoyed with the art was the cape. Like there are some panels where the cape is outrageously big.
Let me see if I can find
like it's almost like neo 90s in a way where it's like it's not that weird flowing cape is everywhere type of McFarlane cape, but it's just like it's so cape forward.
Cape forward. I mean, that's a pretty long one right there.
Yeah. Especially there's one scene where he's like walking away, I think after he's talking in
to the lady, yeah.
Yeah. And
I found it.
Yeah. Like
this one's right there.
Yeah. What is that about?
It's like a flag at a car dealership.
Yeah.
So good. I didn't even notice that one. So good.
Needed to tone that down a little bit.
Yeah, it's funny. That is funny.
But I mean, you can certainly draw very well.
Right, for sure. So I'm not a mega fan of Joshua Williamson. He's had stuff that he's done that I've liked, and stuff that I felt like was maybe a little more mediocre. I liked some of his Flash. I have not read that entire run, but I've read a chunk of it. I can't tell if he's the problem or if it's just issue 1. You know, you got to give it a couple of issues to let him just get into the story and not just be setting up the world. I don't know. Quote of the day going forward is cape forward.
Everyone loves my cape forward.
It's the Spawn cape. Hey, you know.
Yeah. But that's what I'm saying. Like it's not really the Spawn cape because Spawn cape is like it has a life of its own, right? Like it's going in directions that physically are impossible. This is just like
it's just massive.
Just, the percentage of panel given to Cape is a lot.
For me personally, I'm going to stick with Action Comics just because I like Philip Kennedy Johnson more as a writer. And I've been enjoying that one a heck of a lot. And if I start hearing that this one is great as well, then I might come back and try a trade and see what's going on. But I was not in love enough with this issue 1 to keep going with it. But I'm glad that I tried it out, and I was excited to see kind of what Jamal Campbell would be doing. Overall, I think this was probably a 6.5 for me.
Yeah, it was 6.
There you go.
The one thing I found very funny that I'm sure like only a jerk like me will think about, where like I mentioned in the recap of the plot, they kind of twist his arm by saying, a lot of people are going to lose their jobs if you don't accept this position, because so many people in Metropolis are connected to LexCorp in one way or another. Like if we shut down the whole, everyone's going to lose their jobs. Not taking into account that clearly they've invented some sort of nanobot that can build a giant S on top of a building in the matter of seconds.
Yeah.
Basically putting every construction company in the world out of business.
That's hilarious. I didn't even think of that. It's kind of like when you start thinking about all the contractors working on the Death Star that blew up in the 3rd film.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, 6th. I mean, that I was more irked by like the legal logistics of having somebody who doesn't have a real identity become the CEO of a company that's that massive.
Yeah, because how are you supposed to contact him if you have like a board meeting or?
Yes, there's no simple way to have somebody like Superman run your company. On top of which, if he actually gave Superman all this power, Superman could do all kinds of things with it, like give all the profits to charity, like do all these things. But it clearly is set up where Lex Luthor still kind of has power, but he's like letting Superman be a figurehead. Well, so that, I mean, the logistics, the logistics of that story, I find like it's probably not going to hold water for me long term.
Well, I mean, on the one hand, if we're thinking about this in real world terms, Lex.
I mean, they treat it with enough real world implications that I kind of had to.
Right, and I'll go along with that. But Lex being as rich and powerful as he is, in those sorts of situations, they can get lawyers to figure out whatever you need them to do.
Right.
So if he said, make something where this is going to work, the lawyers would figure it out. Now, having said that, like, yeah, Superman could give all the profits to charity, blah, 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 whatever. But, like, the thing about Lex is, and why he's such an interesting villain, especially to Superman, is this all-powerful god creature, right? Like, he's stronger than anything you could ever imagine. He's faster than anything you could ever imagine. He's got all these powers. Lex is just smart, and he's cunning. Right. And I don't mean that like in a, oh, that's all he is, but he is genius level cunning and smart.
It's enough, right?
And so
it's more than enough.
Even if Superman were to do that, whatever plan Lex has working on doesn't matter what Superman does, because he has something else at play that is going to fall into place regardless of what Superman does, I think. But I mean, I won't be finding out because I'm probably not going to keep reading this.
So there you go. Superman issue 1. And hello, Old Wolf. Good to see you, buddy.
How dare you? Only John's allowed to be late.
That's fair.
What do you want to talk about next?
I mean, so let's talk about Local Man.
Okay.
This is by, is it Tim Seeley and Tony Fleecis?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's an Image comic having to do with a moderately disgraced superhero from a popular team elsewhere coming home because of scandals involving his work with the team, and trying to find a way to spend the rest of his life, seemingly being unable to be a superhero for legal reasons now.
Yeah.
And so life in a small town, despite being famous and being unable to use his powers for all the scandalous legal reasons from being kicked off of this team, and yet also being forced to confront people who just want to start something, and having to decide, whether or not he's going to use his powers, or how he can use his powers in those scenarios.
Yeah.
It also includes a flip side, like story, where they show you in
90s.
classic 90s Rob Liefeld-esque style what it was like when he was on this team. So you can, and then Image used to do these like books where it would be like you'd flip it over and you could read it backwards and it would be the other side. So there you go. Did I do it all right?
Yeah. So I mean, there's a couple of things I want to kind of touch on before we get into the conversation. The first being that his secret identity is not a thing. Like everyone in this town knows who he is and knows that he was a superhero. So
it's very much like The Boys in that way. Like there's just one identity.
So yeah, he returns to his hometown where like even his parents are kind of against him. It seems like they kind of give him a lot of shit. For
it seems like most people feel like he blew it and he's kind of a nothing, and they're not, and so that's why locals
they
like
not only disgrace himself but disgrace the town that he's from because of what he did. And you only get like a suggestion about what his indiscretion was, but it seems like he slept with the team leader's girl, who's also a superhero.
Or something with her, because he tries to get her to back him and she's not having it.
Oh yeah, sorry, Wolf. Said, I love that his parents hate him. Thanks for stealing my thunder. And also, this takes place within the greater Image universe because they bring up Brigade and Cyberforce. So like this is
the early 90s especially era, or at least inspired by through
right. So this isn't like just some in a vacuum story. This is part of the early Image universe type story. So I think that's kind of important to take into consideration.
For sure. I will say I was kind of bored with this book. And it may be a Tony Fleecis thing because I did not love. I'm the one guy that didn't like Stray Dogs, or didn't care enough to buy the individual issues or get. I read the trade and then I gave it away. That's okay. I'm good. I just feel like he has something of a bland style for me. It just feels like something I've already read and enjoyed more the other time.
More when it was written by somebody.
I don't know. I don't know that I know Tim Seeley. I know the name, but I don't know that I've read something. Nothing specific jumps to mind on that front. And Brad Simpson, I don't necessarily know for sure either. So yeah, in general, this just felt like Diet The Boys to me. Come on. I'm sorry, Tony. Am I crapping on a book you love? There you go. Thanks, JP. I didn't like. Yeah, it just was boring. I don't think either book is like awful. I don't think we've definitely talked about awful books on these shows a ton. This doesn't qualify for that. I was just bored.
Yeah. So I read the backup story first.
Oh, really? How did that work? Because I didn't do that. How did that change your interest in it in any way?
So, I mean, maybe a little bit because the backup story is done very well, and I don't mean that as a compliment, because it felt like I was reading a book from the early 90s.
Authentically awful 90s image.
It was too authentically awful. Like, it wasn't tongue in cheek enough. It was like, oh, this is just a book from the 90s. So because I read that first, and then I flipped over to the more like very modern image take on a comic book, like I probably enjoyed it a little more than I would have. But I agree, like in concept, I loved it. In execution, I agree, it was a little boring. Like, I feel like
apparently Wolf wasn't mad at us. He was saying hi to Come On Mama. So funny. I didn't realize that, JP, when you read Stray Dogs, the whole panel didn't care for it. That's funny. So you read the 90s stuff first, and it does feel authentic to that era, but those were, I mean, you look at books like Cyberforce and Brigade, and you're just like, I've tried going back to read them now, and I'm just like, God, what a mess.
Yeah. I mean,
they're absolute
great
confused
for a
mess.
12, 13-year-old, which is what I was when they came out.
Yeah.
But
I don't know that I collected more than 3 or 4 even then.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're older than me.
At the time, I was like, I'd get 3 or 4, and then I was like, I know that I'm a Savage Dragon Insano, but like, that was the only one that I kept up with.
Yeah.
Even Spawn, I was done by 7. I was like, this is stupid.
Oh yeah, I gave up on Spawn pretty quickly as a kid, even.
Yeah. It was Savage Dragon at least hooked me, and the character I found interesting, and I just stuck with it for obviously a stupid amount of time.
Yeah.
But I just felt like it had something to say, and the character had something of interest to me. But the rest of it was just absolute dreck.
But like, it felt like really kind of like those second or third tier image books, even like a Brigade. Like, it wasn't like a Cyberforce or a Wildcats. Like, it wasn't a top tier book. It was like a third generation image number one.
How many second tier image 90s books can we name?
Troll, Brigade.
I did Super Patriot. That was the first one that came to my mind.
Super Patriot.
It was the Savage Dragon spinoff.
Trencher.
Oh my God, you're going to be so much better at this than I am.
Supreme.
Wasn't there like Freedom Force? Wasn't that a thing? Something Force? I don't know. Not Cyber Force. Freedom something. Oh my God.
What was that other one? Not Wildcats. Wild something.
Covert Action Teams.
Blood Syndicate.
Oh yes. Tony's like, I have all those. I have at least the first issues of most of these. I remember at the time, and let's see if how solid Tony and Alex memories are of JP. The hot one of all the image books that launched wasn't Spawn, it wasn't Savage Dragon. The one that like everybody was like, this is the one you're gonna save because this one's gonna go for a shit ton of money. Everybody's got to find this book. I don't know if you remember which one you thought it was.
Like a certain specific issue?
A specific number one, like the first issue of one of those, like the one that was like after they'd all been out for a little bit, they'd all been read, and people were like specking on this image book.
I don't know.
For me, it was it Shadowhawk?
Yeah.
That was like legit, like people had it on the wall. That was like a wall book. Like this is like fucking Shadowcat, the most ridiculous of all of them.
Like Jim Valentino's.
That book, it was Youngblood. They pushed
Youngblood was the first.
It was the launch title, right? But like after they'd been out for a bit, like the spec wall book was Shadowhawk. It was like, I was like, this book sucks. It was easily the most atrocious read of all those things. You bought Shadowhawk too. It had that like what is it? Embossed cover.
Yeah.
That was hilarious, man. And I hated that book. I was like, why are people specking on this of all these books? Shadowhawk? All right. That panned out really well. Sorry, didn't mean to derail that. So, I mean, I'd give this one, I don't know, 7. maybe 7.5. I don't know.
Yeah, I'd go 6.5, 7. I mean, like it was fine.
They all had embossed covers. Some had foil and embossed. You're not an ass, Tony. I've literally said I've got still a bunch of
yeah,
these.
it's what the market was back then. Everyone was buying those.
I have a short box that's labeled Image, and it's just like, I mean, it's certainly nowadays it has like, you know, Descender and some other things of slightly better value and quality, but it still has covert action teams in there.
I mean, you know, not everything can be early Valiant.
Home run.
Hey, I mean, laugh if you want, but read the first 10 issues of Solar compared to the first 10 issues of Wildcats and tell me which one you'd rather read again.
I mean, that's not fair. Because I would never want to read the first 10 issues of Wildcats again.
Oh, okay.
I've actually never read a full arc of the original Valiant of anything.
Oh, you should read. Most of the pre-Unity stuff is like legitimately really good.
The original, this is 90s, right? Original 90s stuff.
Yeah.
Because I bought a couple of the like relaunch 2000s stuff, 2010 stuff.
Well, like Jeff Lemire was writing some of that.
I don't know that any of the ones I got were Lemire, but I haven't been able to finish any of them yet. I'm sure I've still got the trades in a box somewhere because I feel guilty that I bought them. I got to read these. It was what was the Magnus Robot Fighter or something? Yeah. I got that one. I got a couple. Solar is awesome. There it is. Tony's with you. All right, we got two more.
Two more?
I mean, I brought.
Oh, yeah, I did. I picked that up. I have not read it yet, so feel free to talk about it. I'll talk about Catwoman for a couple minutes then.
Okay. Do you want to go to Catwoman then?
Yeah, it was boring.
Is it an issue 1? Is it a new?
It is like a jumping on point.
New creative team or whatever.
There's a new Catwoman because Selina's in jail for reasons I don't fully know because I haven't been reading it and they don't really explain it. But she's in jail, and then so someone else is kind of serving as Catwoman while she's in jail.
Okay.
I mean, it was fine. You know, it was like kind of like watching like a crappy sitcom. Like it went down easy, but I didn't really care about it.
Okay.
But I really like the cover of the issue, which is right here.
Oh yeah. Damn, fucking David Nakayama does not strike out.
Yeah, he doesn't miss. No. So
okay. So at least you got a good cover out of it. Don't hold back, Alex. Like, you, Mama, you got it. Yeah, that's our jam here.
Catwoman cover by.
I will say, JP, I have been consistently disappointed by Teenie Howard. The only thing that Teenie Howard touched that I enjoyed was the event X of Swords or 10 of Swords. And I think it's because Hickman was like pulling the strings at the same time.
Yeah.
And that works as an event because there's so many other writers writing. And there's 22 issues in there. She probably only wrote like 6. And the others were written by other writers. And I think it works better as an event. But yeah, I've been so consistently disappointed by her writing that I just don't. It's just not for me. She's the only thing that's worse than her is Scott Snyder. So it's like, yeah, she's right there. She's second.
So yeah, I mean, definitely covered by this run because like the issue that came out last week had like 3 knockout covers. In my opinion.
Yeah.
So
who's on the variants for that run? Anybody great? Because I know that some really talented people have been doing Catwoman covers. I was all over the Art Germ ones. I know that Jen Frizen.
Nakayama's doing the A covers. But I think the B and C covers are different every time. I think. I don't remember who did them.
Sure. Yeah, JP, that's a very fair point. And I did notice that on her Excalibur run. But for me, it was more like so many threads left hanging and so many opportunities clearly set up and then missed, like just not paid off at all. And then just dull, just not really captivating. So of the 4 books that I got this week, this round that I'm discussing, I probably like Monarch the most, Tony, to answer your question.
So I've not read it yet, like I said, but I can agree. Because like for the
just
other,
based on the other 3
spoilers for Blue Book, like
God,
there's no way that a book can be less engaging than that.
Oh, freaking hell, so good. It's like such a sucker punch. I just didn't see it coming. He's got me. He's got me. I haven't read it, but I can already agree. Shots fired. So if you've seen, there's a fun British film called Attack the Block. Aliens
Very
attacking in your cities.
John Boyega's in it.
Yeah, John Boyega's in it. There are vibes of that here, maybe a little more serious, a little less silly, but the concept of it's focusing in on an inner city family, and the first half of the book, I would say, does very little on the alien abduction side of the story, which is clearly the hook, and spends a lot more time on the kids and the troubles at school and the bullying and some of that stuff. I will say my biggest frustration is this book skips around a ton. We're in the past, we're in the present, we're in the future. It's like I can't control what's going on. So like it starts, the first 3 words are 10 hours ago. Okay, I was like, okay, we're gonna jump around, and it continually does this where you're like trying to keep track of like all the different narrators, because this one's in orange and this one's in green, and there's a lot of that. So I think it's a little bit of what we talked about with Blackula, where it just feels like so much shoehorned in. It's there's very little breathing room here, and that's my biggest frustration. I like the characters. I like the characterizations. I think that he does a good job with all of that. There are huge, just exciting like twists of action where all of a sudden when the alien stuff starts, it's like, whoa, okay, wow. This is getting dark and this is getting violent and this is getting crazy. You connect to these kids and the situation that they're in. Some of them just trying to survive this weird hellscape that they're now stuck in. But I really did feel like I'm ready for issue 2. Like I wanted a second issue for this. Nice. And I'm hopeful that he's going to find a better pacing going forward now that he's like set things in motion, that we don't need to skip in time. We can be in the story moment that we're in. But that was my biggest frustration with the whole thing. Walking a fine line to not be a disaster with being set up like that. I don't know quite that that's the case. I do feel like it's a different story than I've read before. It's a different take on alien abduction, alien invasion kind of stuff. And focuses again less on these creatures, less on the aliens, and more on, like The Walking Dead did, the people dealing with it. Do you know what I mean? Like the people being shook up and having to like figure out a way to survive amidst this, and the lives they were living before and the life they're living now, kind of stuff. Does that make sense?
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah,
so I enjoyed it.
It's definitely.
I'll get a second issue.
Well,
and I'll probably give that an 8. I'll give that an 8 out of 10. Is what I'll say for that.
All right, very good.
And speaking of aliens, your favorite book of the week by what it sounds. We got James Tiny Onion and what's his name? Michael Avon Oming from Powers, telling the true story of an alien sighting abduction that occurred in the 60s?
Yeah.
1961, early 60s, and recreating the narrative that this couple told of their experience at the time in a definitely race fueled period of history and time in New Hampshire. But they're taking a trip. Sorry, that's like New England, Montreal area.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I was familiar with this story already.
Just because of where you
No,
grew
just
up
because like I'm a nerd who listens to conspiracy theory podcasts.
Okay.
So,
but it was also on his Substack, right? Isn't that?
Yeah. It's a very, very famous alien abduction story. My biggest problem with it was, it just like, why was this a comic? It didn't offer anything that like a documentary or a podcast wouldn't tell. Like it, because like half of it was like, you know, basically third party narration talking about who the people were in this story, like giving you background on this situation. And then, you know, kind of the rest of it is just these people kind of like stopping and looking at this thing and then running away from it and stopping and looking at this thing. And
that middle section there where it's like, run. No, wait, it's not there. Wait, what's there? What is it? Why are we going? It didn't have it for me. It was nothing. Didn't have any intensity. Didn't have any fear. Didn't have any excitement. Which it should have been. I should have been. You know, it's like Fire in the Sky. I should have been scared shitless.
Right. Yeah. If they had gotten rid of the like podcast narration or the documentary style narration of it and focused on the people's reaction to what they were seeing, like it could have been a really good telling of this story. But as it stands, like I feel like it just offered nothing. And then there's a second backup story about these kids at a beach kind of like talking about seeing some sort of flying monster in the sky that was kind of just like also about nothing.
Was it a second backup story?
Well, I mean, it's a second...
A backup story like the other book had.
A second, comma, backup story.
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah, I did not like the backup story. I thought was even worse. I just was like, "What is this? This just it feels like it's on crack." I don't even know what the story is.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, the book looks nice.
The backup story did happen. Really? The giant metal elephant and the frog man with wings and
I don't know about the frog man with wings, but Topsy is a real thing. Edison Topsy the elephant.
Oh, the giant like statue thing.
Oh, I don't know about the statue thing, but like the elephant getting electrocuted.
Gotcha. Because I was like, what the hell is this? Like
Thomas Edison did actually electrocute an elephant live in front of people.
Okay, that doesn't. For me, I'm more confused about the giant like building that's shaped like an elephant.
I don't know.
All right.
Old Wolf says both. Yup.
Both. Yup. Based on this month's show, it sounds like everyone should stop reading comics. That feels like most months, maybe.
Yeah.
JP, this saves you. You don't realize how much time and money this show saves you.
Here's the thing: like, I still read ongoings that I still enjoy reading month to month. Yeah. It's just like it's so hard to find a new good series, especially like, and we've talked about this before, where reviewing just an issue number one sometimes is really hard because the way comics are written now, no one writes comics where it's like, this happens to be an issue one, but it's just the start to a story. It's either this is part one of a 6-part trade that is broken up into comics, or it is, we have to grab you. So we're going to throw everything against the wall and hopefully you'll stick to something.
Maybe, yeah. And, you know, maybe to Mama and JP's point, what we need is a segment at the end where we can highlight a book from the month that's part of an ongoing that we really liked. Because a lot of what we try to do on the show is read and discuss new launching on points for ongoing series or new issue number ones of new series that people might be interested in, just to give us a chance to try stuff out. Good.
I'm glad we provide a service.
So like in this case, I have 4 and plus Alec has one that I didn't read. So we have 5 issue number 1s ostensibly from February that we were trying to give a shot to. And I've even got one. I was telling Alec before we went live, I bought 2 issue number 1s technically today. I got the new Cosmic Ghost Rider and the new Jeff Lemire Image book.
I bought both of those as well, so we'll probably be talking about those next month.
At the end of March or whatever, those will be 2 of the ones that we'll probably be discussing. But I think it might be kind of fun to have an issue of the month ongoing kind of thing. I don't know.
Yeah,
something else.
Because,
did you have one that you were like?
I mean, like I've been enjoying Parker Girls. No surprise there.
How do you feel like it holds up compared to Strangers in Paradise?
I mean, it doesn't, but
okay. I'm just curious because I think there.
Well, I mean, like Strangers in Paradise is like for me 20 steps above most things.
How many times have you read the entirety of that series?
Of Strangers in Paradise?
Yeah,
twice.
Okay,
not in a while. Like all
because you mentioned to me the other day when I was talking about how much I liked the 3rd of the pocketbooks, and you're like, God, I gotta remember which ones are in that one because I get it. It's a lot to take in, and I still have one more pocketbook to read. I don't want to read it casually. I want to read it with intention, and so it's like picking the right time is always a trick. It didn't. Yeah, me neither, Mama. I did not care for Vanish either.
No. Same. I think we talked.
It's already vanished from my mind.
We talked about it on this show when it came out, didn't we?
Mm-hmm. We did indeed.
So yeah, I mean, like I hold Strangers in Paradise in such high regard that saying like, does anything hold up to it? Like, no, nothing's gonna hold up to it. But compared to like a lot of other stuff I read month to month, it's still like a better, more enjoyable read for me than a lot of stuff.
Well, and I think that when you have something that you're invested in that, it tends to hold some extra weight for you,
Oh, for sure.
I think that's been the case for me for a lot of series, X-Men-ish, in related topics as well, I think. Nightwing is usually high on my list month to month.
Yeah.
I will say I loved issue 100. I didn't love 101, which I think was the February issue was 101. 100 was excellent and absolutely one of the best ones that I think they've done. Redondo and Taylor.
Yeah.
Poison Ivy's fallen off a little bit for me, but I would say I loved Immoral X-Men, the issue number 1 of the Sins of Sinister tie-in that they're doing.
Yeah, I picked that up. I've also not read that yet either.
But again, it's because I've invested all the Immortal X-Men last year was the easily the best X-Men book they did, and Kieran Gillen just did a phenomenal job with that. And this just feels like the next issue in that. It's because it's him again, and it's just a really. It gave me a little bit more excitement for what Sins of Sinister could be, considering I felt like some of the issues have been hit or miss, but that Kieran Gillen is the one that I think elevates the bar on that series, on the X-Men titles. And I'm only reading 3 or 4 X-Men titles a month versus they had 4 that dropped this week and I didn't get any of them. There's an X-Force, there's a Rogue and Gambit, there's an Extreme X-Men. I didn't read any of those. I'm really only reading it like a handful. 101 was a little off the mark for me also, which is disappointing. There you go. Yeah, but 100, which would have been, the January month book, would have probably been the book of the ongoing series of the month that I would have picked. It's just really great. Although Immortal X-Men was issue 10, and that was just violent, crazy as heck. So, lots of good stuff there with Kieran Gillen.
All right. Well,
what's up, Robert?
I guess that's all we got for this month, huh?
That is indeed.
Very good. You got anything you want to plug?
I am, I think, 15 subscribers away from 2,000.
Whoa.
It's right there. I'm on the cusp. I know everybody in this chat already, so I don't need to plug any of them.
You're not getting any numbers here.
That was our ongoing joke. Was like this: we're cannibalizing our own fans. But yeah, so I'm getting close to hitting that on the head, and when I do, I'm sure I'm going to do some kind of big fun giveaway party thing. I'm assuming that what I'll probably do is go to MegaCon and just seek out things that I think I could buy cheap and give away that people would love, and just kind of buy some fun stuff. But yeah, I will definitely be doing a few fun giveaways as part of hitting that number. It'll probably happen in the next week, maybe, at the rate things are going. So stay tuned for that. Yeah, the Harry Potter readings. I'm trying to finish book 4 just because I felt bad that we stopped exactly in the middle at like 2 years ago. We stopped and just didn't do it. So Charlie and I are back, and we'll finish that out and at least not leave anybody hanging on that side. And then we got to pick what else we're going to read next. I got a little list going of stuff we might try to read, some books, some authors I loved reading to my third graders, great writers like Katie Camillo, who I think is criminally heard about, despite the fact that she was the ambassador to children's literature for the United States for a couple of years. Great writer.
Cool.
I'll you what I love. Same, right back at you, buddy.
Yeah. I would have to assume that is a typo.
What do you think he meant, though? I'll tell you what I love.
I don't know.
It's like trying to understand. Where's the Rosetta Stone for that? I was all right.
Yeah.
I can read that Sanskrit, baby. But that's it for me. I'm going to continue doing fun shorts. I did a short the other day comparing Moira McTaggart to Hannibal Lecter. Worth checking out if you didn't realize how Moira McTaggart connected to Silence of the Lambs. Buckle up because it's graphic. She skinned somebody. Buffalo Bill style or Hannibal Lecter style. It's real. It's an issue. It's a comic. You should read it.
Sounds intriguing.
Yeah. So that's the newest short on my YouTube. I think it's buck wild.
Yeah, I got nothing. D&D on Sunday with the boys on JP's channel.
Going strong. Buffalo Bill. I mean, so yes.
But Hannibal Lecter did cut that guy's face off
and wear it to escape a prison.
Spoilers for Silence of the Lambs.
And that's more related to what Moira's doing. Hashtag RIP Banshee. Alec could look out his window and see MegaCon. He would just be like, right there.
That is slight exaggeration, but yeah, I'm about 15 minutes away from MegaCon. So yeah, I'll be there. Although I still need to buy tickets because I'm waiting to see if I can get them through work. But it doesn't.
I was gonna say you can't get that fun vendor badge and just get us all into the place at like crack of dawn.
Not sure if we are gonna be vendors this year.
Gotcha. What's up, Dr. Venkman in the chat? Comic Book Frog. How you doing, man?
So yeah, if anyone is going to be at MegaCon later this month, holy shit. I'll probably see you there, hopefully.
I mean, it is April Fool's, right in the middle of the con.
Yeah. So maybe I won't be there. Who knows?
It is called a con.
Oh.
YouTube recommended this channel because you're on it, John. And you got a lot of recommendations, probably.
Really? That is the only reason to watch this channel, is to get more John content.
Jesus. I was going back and looking at your artist series, and the number of views on that artist series is amazing, man.
I got a lot.
You gotta just throw. You gotta just throw one out there. Just do one. Just go back and do one. Just pick something. Pick somebody. Just go hog wild.
Well, I'm not gonna get into it.
I know it's a ton of work. I know.
No, I mean, it is a lot of work, but it's also like I don't want to do one just for the sake of doing one. Like I want to have something to say.
Of course, yeah. But the second you settle on the artist and start looking at some of their stuff, you'll have stuff to say. I mean, come on, look at the show.
I mean, I don't always have constructive things to say.
Well, certainly.
I have things to say, but who knows if they're worth listening to.
Well, that's a whole separate discussion.
Alec crapping on books, so I'd watch this channel. Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of that. If you want to go back through my New Comic Book Day book club episodes, there's a lot of me shitting on books. But I mean, I feel like that's kind of out of fashion now.
Is it though? I mean, some things
not that I ever cared.
Some things always stay in fashion.
All right. Well, why don't we head on out of here until next month, which will be back on John's channel, where
the March review show.
Yeah. Although I don't know when that'll be because of I don't know if BagaCon will.
Yeah, it'll be somewhere that first or second week of April, probably.
Okay. Well, until then, I'll just remind everyone to never turn your back on the ocean. Bye.